Okay, so today we're going to do a deep dive into something that I am sure is a challenge for pretty much everyone out there.
Yeah, for sure.
Finding really good JavaScript developers. I mean, it can be tough out there. How do you know?
It's so hard to know, like, who actually knows their stuff?
Right, exactly. Like, who could actually build things versus who just crammed a bunch of stuff?
Yeah, just for the interview.
For the interview. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, thankfully, we have some amazing insights from Ayub Sheikh, who is, well, I mean, he's a veteran.
Oh, yeah, he's been doing this for, like, over 20 years.
Yeah, he's a tech recruiter, and he's also a trainer. So he's shared what he looks for. And we're going to unpack all of that for you today so you can walk into those interviews with, like, coder confidence.
Yeah, and you know what to ask. Like, you're ready.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're not intimidated. You're going to spot the real talent.
Exactly.
Okay, so Ayub really breaks this down into a few key things. What they actually do, the tools, the skills, and like some really insightful questions for those interviews.
Yeah, like specific questions that he uses to, kind of test their knowledge.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's start with the day-to-day. Like, what does a JavaScript developer actually do?
So, they are essentially building all the cool things that we see on the web.
So, like, when we're looking at a candidate's resume, what are some of those duties that should kind of jump out at us? Are they, like, building entire websites from scratch?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, it can involve that, but on a day-to-day basis, you're going to see stuff like developing user interfaces.
Okay, so that's front end, right?
Yeah, the front end, that's what the user sees. And then you're going to see building back-end systems, like using Node.js.
Oh, Node.
Yeah.
Hold on, I feel like we need to explain Node.js for folks who might not be, like, super deep in the weeds on that.
So, okay, traditionally, JavaScript was really all about, making websites interactive, right? So it's stuff that you see in your browser. But Node.js comes along and it's like, hey, we can use JavaScript outside of the browser too.
Mind blown.
Right, so it can run on servers, it can handle all this data, it can do user authentication.
So they're not just making it look pretty, they're doing all that complicated stuff behind the scenes too.
Exactly. And that's why, you're going to see, as a recruiter, a skilled JavaScript developer may have experience in both front end and back end.
Oh, interesting. So that makes them extra valuable, I guess.
Yeah, much more versatile.
Okay, so what else? What other duties are they doing?
Well, you're going to see writing unit tests.
Okay, explain unit tests.
Unit tests are basically how developers make sure that their code is doing what it's supposed to do.
Gotcha.
Making sure it's working as expected, and of course, fixing bugs. I mean, no software is perfect.
All right.
So debugging is a huge part of their job. And then you're going to see collaboration. They're going to be working with designers, product managers, other developers. It's rarely a solo thing.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So that's kind of their world. Now let's talk tools. What are the things that they're using every day?
All right, so we've got the text editor, like Visual Studio Code. It's like their home where they're writing the code.
Okay.
And then you've got package managers, which are basically like app stores for code.
I like that.
So things like NPM and Yarn,
Yeah.
where you can get pre-built libraries, modules, you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
And then, of course, for debugging browser developer tools like Chrome DevTools, Firefox has its own.
Yeah, I've seen those.
These tools are so powerful for inspecting how the code is running.
Okay, so we have what they do, the tools, but now the big question is how do we know if they're actually good at it? Like, how do we assess their skills? What are we looking for on a resume? And then the even bigger question, how do we test that in an interview?
So Ayub, he really emphasizes that you need to see those core JavaScript concepts, like knowing those inside and out. So, variables, operators, control structures, like the building blocks of the language.
Okay, but for somebody who's not a developer, that can be a little intimidating, right, to dive into those technical details.
Right.
How do we, like, as recruiters who maybe haven't written code ourselves, how do we feel confident talking about that stuff?
I think the key here is to focus on practical application. So instead of saying, hey, explain how a for loop works, you can say, hey, tell me about a time that you used a loop to solve a problem in your code.
Oh, I like that.
Shifting it from that theoretical knowledge to actually how they're using it.
Problem solving, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Now, what about, like, the more advanced stuff?
Yeah, so this is where you separate the juniors from the seniors, right? You want to see experience with those popular frameworks.
Like what?
Like React, Angular, Vue.js.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
These are the frameworks that are really powering modern web development.
Okay.
So, if you've got a candidate who's comfortable with one, or even better, multiple of those. That's a huge asset.
So how do you gauge that? Like if I see React on a resume, is that enough?
You want to go a little deeper, like ask them about specific projects that they've worked on, what challenges they faced, how they contributed to the team. And by digging into those details, you'll get a sense of how much they really know.
Okay, that's really helpful. It's about going beyond the buzzwords and actually understanding how they used it.
Right.
Now, what about soft skills? Things that aren't always on the resume.
Oh, that's huge. Ayub really emphasizes the importance of problem-solving abilities and adaptability. Because, let's be honest, the JavaScript world, it changes like every 5 minutes, right?
Definitely, yeah.
You need somebody who can learn new technologies and apply what they already know to those new situations.
Okay.
So asking those behavioral questions like, tell me about a time you had to learn a new technology on the fly, or how do you approach debugging a complex problem? Those kinds of questions will reveal a lot about their mindset.
Yeah, I love that. It's like, how do you approach things when you're stuck?
Yeah.
Any final words of wisdom before we wrap up here? I mean, it sounds like even for seasoned developers, just keeping up with all of this is like a full-time job in itself.
It really is. But I think the key takeaway is that a successful JavaScript developer, they've got that foundational knowledge, they've mastered these modern tools, but they also have this genuine passion for constantly learning.
Yeah. They have to, right?
They have to. And as a recruiter, your job is to uncover those traits, right? Find those candidates who are not only skilled today, but who are going to grow along with the field.
Awesome. Well, huge thanks to Ayub Sheikh for giving us such a practical framework for thinking about this. It's really given me a lot to think about.
Me too. And I encourage everyone listening to really keep exploring the world of JavaScript. It's fascinating.
It is. And with that, I'm going to leave you all with a final thought. What emerging trends in JavaScript are you most excited to see reflected in the skills of future candidates? Until next time.
See ya.